All right, we're back. We are COMP724 in the winter 2018 semester, and we are week 4, part 2 of our broadcast. We're still finishing with SpriteKit. Where last we left off, we were talking about how to position, if I look at my SK scene, right, which is the game scene, we did all this work with our live label, and we realized how hard it is to kind of position things properly. Well, wouldn't it be nice if we had a label that we could use instead of this? And of course, the answer is yes. So let's make a new object. We'll call it the label object. We'll make it of SK label nodes. I'm going to make it Cocoa Touch class this time. And I'm going to call it label, which is going to be of type SK label node. And I'm going to attach it here into my objects. So this is going to be of type SpriteKit. And the reason why we're making an SK label node is because if I extend SK label node, I can make my own SK label node just called label, right? So if you can grab that. So I know I need to do the init function. So just like we did before, we can have private instance variables. We can have some public properties if you want them. By the way, after this, after these lessons, guys and girls, what have you learned? Very clearly how to make classes in and interfaces or protocols in Swift. If you know how to make classes in Swift, you know a lot already. It's a lot of stuff you've learned from that, right? Private methods, and we've also done public methods. I'm just outlining it. That's what I always do. In the constructor function, I've got an initialization. And what we want to pull in here is some kind of string, right? So I want an object that I'm going to pull into my initialization called the font string or the label string. Okay, I'll call it label string, which is going to be of type string, right? That's what I want coming in, inbound. And I'm going to pass it to the super class. So I'm going to pass it to the super, where I'm going to take my my label string and pass it in, right? Which should suffice. It should make everything that I need for my object. Now, if you look at the plain, because we kind of did the same thing, we kind of said, okay, we're going to send the image string, and it's going to be called plain. And then we also did this thing where in the game object, just to give you a reminder how we did this, we have our init function, and we've got this. And then we did this super init, right? So I can't just do a super. I need to do super init. So I'm going to go back to this, super.init. I'm going to pass in my label string, which should take care of that. But I also need this, which I'm not going to use. This is just required, right? I'm not going to use this NS coder. It's just part of it. So super.init, and then my label string, which is of type string, right? So what am I missing here, guys? How do I do this differently? So again, if I look at my example, my GameObject.swift, you can see that my super.init needs some labels, right? So if I go back to this, and if I did that, I would have to super.init. It needs some kind of text like this, text string, which we would pass in the label string. That's what it's looking for. All right. That's the first thing. So I take my label string and pass it in. Must call a designated initializer of superclass SK label node. Designated initializer. Well, we know we have a label which is text. So what am I missing here? Come on, help me out. You're extending a class. We've done this a bunch of times. I need your help. What's the problem? Here it is, and hold on a second. Let's try that again. And you can see that there's a bunch of them, right? This is the one I want. Text string. Text string. Right? It's not text. It's something else, right? String is the type. right? This is the what I want is the thing called text. Is that what I'm doing? Or could I simply just do one of these? Could I just do this? Is that enough? It is. I may want to do this in this case, and there's a reason for this, right? Because I could do self.text. I could do self.text is equal to the label string. Could do that, right? That'll suffice when I do it. And I could take some of the same stuff I put in my game scene.sks. Let's go back to my Swift. And I did all this, right? So I did this, whatever the SK node is, and I did all of this. I'm going to take all this for a second, right? I want all this part, all this stuff, okay? And I want to put it back into my label. Like here, it's got to be useful, this label class, right? It can't just be like the same as a label, or else why am I doing it? So I want all this stuff, right? I'm just putting it here as a reference. I'm just going to comment it out. So this is what I want, which means that I want to take it in here in my init function. I want to look at my x and y coordinates. So something like x, which is a CG float, right? And y, which is also a CG float. I could do that. I could also take in a CG point instead. So I could do, instead of x and y, I could say something like position, which is of type CG point. That might be better. It saves me some space, right? So position, which is a CG point. And then I might also take in some font size, font color, font name, like in my coordinate, right? So font size, which is of CG float, right? Font color. Probably font name would be next, and then color. Font name, which is a string. And maybe I want, just give me some more space here. Font color. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with this if you cut some of this stuff down. But font color should be of type SK color, right? SK color. You want to make it so that it's accurate, right? We know the position, and I want to put in something like is centered. Okay, so we want is centered. We kind of did that already, which is of type bool, right? And just to make it so that you can see it all, I'm just going to put it on different lines so you can see what the constructor looks like, or the initializer, if you will. All right, so that's what my initializer looks like. Here's my label string. Notice that I didn't take the Z position because I'm going to make the Z position by default at 10 for all fonts. Okay. Now you might disagree, but then you can also always change it, right? So, all right. So I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to say live. So I'm going to say self dot position then. Right, self.position is going to be is equal to position. I'll start initializing, right? Self.font size. I'm going with the thing is equal to font size. Self.font font name is equal to font name. Self.font color is equal to font color. So all the stuff is coming in from my constructor, right? This is all the stuff I'm getting, and then now, so I did all this. This is all the stuff I'm doing already. I don't need to do this anymore. I can get rid of it. I also want to say that self Z position is equal to 10. We'll set that up as a default. So it rides above everything. All this is like, all I'm doing is extending SK Sprite node. And you know what? I might as well also import core graphics because I'm using CG stuff. Okay, because I'm doing CG float, CG this, CG that. All right, but what about if it's centered? So this position should be done after it's centered. So I'm just going to take this position, even though I got it here, and I'm going to move it down to this part, right? Because position is going to be based on if it's centered or not. So I'm going to try and measure it, right? I'm going to try and measure it. I'm going to say something like, if is centered, this is what I was talking about. I want to measure the frame width and frame height, right? And then what I'm going to do is if it says 10, so let's say, for example, I want a position 10. I'm going to take 10, whatever my position is, and I'm going to add it to the frame width and frame height, right? Some frame width divided by 2 plus whatever the position is in that I got, right? Otherwise, else, I'm just going to set the position like this. So this is this part here. I'm going to put in here. So if it's not centered, just put it where I tell you to put it, right? Actually, sorry. This part should be here if it's centered. Because if it's centered, that's good. Leave it like it's centered already, right? If it's not centered though, if this is false, which is what I want to do here, then what I want to say is something like this, that self.position is not equal to position. It's equal to my position, whatever I have, plus I'm going to add in half my frame width. So plus frame dot width, which is self.frame dot width. Let's just do that. Self.frame dot width times 0.5. And by the way, it's not this. Self.position.x is position.x plus self.frame width. And why? Because position has x and y, right? And then the same thing goes for the y, where I take the height value and multiply by 0.5. So this is what I'm actually doing. And then once I've got that, I've got my self.z position. I'm always going to put to that, whatever, depending on what happens here, right? And that's really my initialization for my label. Now, I don't really have any private methods or public methods for now, but I'm leaving it here just in case I decide to make my label special. So my label, instead of a class, is kind of like a struct, right? Because I don't have methods or anything else. Okay, now that I have this label, we have to test it. Let's test it. And how do I do that? I got to bring in because remember, it's an object, right? I'm going to go back to my GameScene.Swift, and I'm going to replace this stuff, my lives label, with a label, right? Now I want to keep some of these values, so let's just comment this out. I want to keep some of these values. And then we'll erase it when we know it's good. Okay, so let's go over here and start typing. So what I want to do is I want to say something like lives label is equal to, is of type label. Notice it comes up now because I made it, right? Which is equal to a label, and I'm going to pass in all this stuff, right? Now, nicely, it does it all for me. Label string, which is my string, which I'm going to put in something like, again, it's my score label, my lives 5. I'm going to start off like this. My position is of type CG point. So it's CG point. And I need X and Y coordinates for my CG point. So I'm going to put in what I have up here, which is something like, I'm not going to do these calculations. This is going to do it for me now. I want it, my frame height minus 20, right? And my 20 from my X. So X is equal to 20, 0.0. And Y is equal to my frame dot height, right, minus 20. Okay, my font size is going to be a certain number. We're going to make it, would you say 30? And my font name is going to be Doc51. My font color is going to be skcolor.yellow. And is center is false. And does this make sense to you guys, what I've done here? So I've created a constructor that takes everything I want on one line and does all the calculations for me when it comes to is centered, my this frame height stuff, my CG point for my position and everything. Now, some people might say, well, you don't need to do this. You'd rather break it down into more than one line. And of course, because I'm not changing it, I could make it a let, but I'm going to change it. So I'm keeping it as a var for now. All right, let's see if this worked, first of all. So let's see if this this experiment, we did an experiment. Let's see if it worked, because that's the first thing. We don't know if it's going to work. Okay, that kind of didn't work. Kind of didn't work, right? And it's part of our calculation. So let's go back to the label. So what we did with the label. So we said that frame.height. So, okay, so I'm saying that whatever the frame, whatever the position, if I said 20, right, for the position, whatever that is, I'm going to take that number 20. And so X is, no, first of all, let's run it one more time. So I'll show you something. So it looks like on the X side, I'm good, right? Because this is good. See, it's got the width that I want, 20 points. But I need to bring this way down, like way down, right? No, it's not yay, it's no, right? This is good, but my calculations for it is wrong, right? So what I want to do is I want to say, well, take my position. And if I take my position, if I say that it's 20, instead of adding my frame height, I want to subtract my frame height, actually. Whatever, half my frame height. So this could be a negative. Because if it's 100, right, then half my frame height, I'm too high, right? And I want to come down by half my frame height because I'm already too high. I'm in the center. I want to come back, right? So let's see if that works. So again, this is based on, you know, calculations as opposed to some random number, right? There we go. That's beautiful. Not have to think about it anymore, right? Okay. So now that I have this, now that I have my label, I can reuse it. This is the idea of reusing my labels, right? So let's go back to my game scene.swift. And I've got this, and I'm just going to copy this. So this is my, I don't need this anymore. We're going to say this is add lives label. A lives label. And we're going to add our score label. Now, score label is slightly different. This is going to be called score label, right? And it's going to be a label of type thing. My score, though, what I want to test is 999. 9999, like this, because I don't know what my score is going to be. I want to measure as many nines as I can that I think that I'm going to get a score. Maybe like even more than this, like this, right? So I can figure this out. Now, it's not going to be 20. It's going to be way on the end. So frame.width minus 20 is what I want to do, right? But remember what we talked about, it's not going to be correct, right? So let's try this out. So I'm going to say, so frame.width minus 20. I want to come back 20, right? So frame.width is the middle. I want to come back 20. And then frame.height minus 20 is good. This is okay. Font size is 30. Font name is Doc51. Font color is yellow. Is center is false. And I want to put this together, which is score label. Add score label. And we'll just take this extra space away. So we have 2 lines as opposed to a bunch of lines. And we have the labels in place now, right? And they're going to be according to the size of my screen. Let's run this thing and see if it's okay. May not be. We have to make some adjustments. Okay, that kind of didn't work. Kind of didn't work, right? It was in the right position, but I've subtracted the width. So frame width is what I want. right? So let's just go try this again. So here's frame width. So frame width, right? So I'm going to go instead of minus 20. I want 20 on the right, right? Sorry. Hold on. Let's see if you can figure it out. So here's my X. So frame width's all the way to the right, right? Well, look, here's frame width. It's way over here, right? And now what's happening is it's trying to add as opposed to subtract. No screen width. No screen. Frame width is what I want. But remember how I did my calculations in my label. My label is this. Is a plus. Is a plus, right? So I'm taking the position and I'm adding it, or subtracting. I'm adding it, right? So I'm saying, hey, if I said screen width, add more to it. Add more, right? So this thing I'm doing here is wrong. So what should I really say here? So whatever my position is going to be, I want to shift it around, right? In fact, what I want to do is I'm always wanting to subtract. I always want to subtract, right? Because if I subtract, I take my X coordinate and I'm moving back to the other side. If I add to it like this, right? If I subtract from it, so let's say, for example, whatever my frame width is, the frame width means the width of my label, right? So let's say my label is 100, okay? And I subtract 50 from it. Whatever the position is, subtract 50, right? That means it's going to offset it back by 50, which is going to be the next position. And the same thing goes to the top. So now whatever position is going to be is what I really want, 20 and then minus 50, right? And if I add 20 to it at the end, right? So I want to take this is correct, right? Self.frame.width times 0.5. I want to take that number, right? So that's the first thing I want. So 100 or whatever is 50, right? I want to take that 50, right? Let's say if it was 100. Now it's 50, okay? And if I put it in position 0, right? Where should it be? Should push it to the right. If it's a position 0, that means, and if normally it's centered like this, I should push it to the right, right? I'm pushing it to the right, not to the left. So this should be plus, right? But hold on a second, right? So this is correct, right? And then for the Y, what I'm saying is, okay, my height, if I'm at the top, right? If I'm at 0 again, right? 0, 0, which is in the bottom, 0, 0 on the bottom. I want to push my height up, right? I want to push it up because, or bring it back down, right? So this is correct, but the problem that I'm having is I haven't offset it enough when I do my calculations. So it's helping me in some ways, but not a lot. There's another calculation I have to do here, and it's not this. Can you guys think of what it is? What would you do differently? There's my position. So I'm recalculating my position. That's what I'm saying to you, right? I'm taking my position, and depending on what I put into it, it's going to figure out where I'm supposed to be. So a good example of this is if I was going to be at 0, 0. If I want to start at 0, 0, where am I centering my stuff? Is it going to be on the bottom left-hand corner or the top left-hand corner? What do I want to do here? What am I doing? So people who don't understand what I'm talking about, let's do it together. So let's draw it out. Sorry, because I know this is difficult, but if you don't do this, other things, it'll screw you up some other ways, right? For buttons and labels and the other stuff that you're going to do, right? So let's suppose I've got a new, let's make it 320 by 480 instead, right? To give me the right proportions. Here's my screen, right? And I've got my object, right? And let's make a name like lives 5. I'll make it really big, right? Okay. First of all, my coordinate system. Where is, you guys are good. You know this already. Where is this is really big. Sorry, the baseline is really big on this thing. That's fine. Where is my bottom left corner of the screen is the bottom left corner, right? So the coordinates for 0, 0 right now are down here, right? Okay. That means if this is centered, that means it's going to appear, if I put it 0, 0, it's going to be something like this. So what do I want? Instead of doing this, I have to come up by a certain amount, half the height, and over by half the width. Up, if I'm going up, I got to add to the y, and I got to add to the x. That's what I'm actually really doing if I go up and up, right? Because I want to kind of, but if I do that, that means that my center is the bottom left. That's what I'm saying, right? Okay, what if I want my center to be the top left? How do I do it then? That means the top left would be here. I'm subtracting, right, from the top. And because I want my top left to be on the top left is going to be thing that's going to be, right? And I'm subtracting from the top and I'm adding to the right. Because normally the center is somewhere here in the middle, right? So it would be like this. I'm adding to this way, adding to the x, and subtracting from the y. If I want my top left corner to be the 0, 0 point. So now we have to decide what is going to be my 0, 0 point. Is it going to be the bottom left or the top left corner of my label? That's the decision we have to make, right? If it's the top left, that means when I'm up here, right? And I want to position let's say my label's actually here. My top left is over here on the label, not over here, but here actually, right? If it's here and I want to push it over, but really it's here. What I'm saying is I need to subtract from the x to make it appear here. Subtract from the x, because now this is where the anchor is actually going to be, if I was to really put it, it would be like this, right? Because that's the real place it's supposed to be, right? So I'm telling it is go to the right this much, right? Because it's supposed to be here like this. Look, this is the center. Go to the right this much and come down. Subtract from the y. Right on the x, subtract from the y. Okay, cool. And then I have this, whatever this left corner is where I want it, right? Okay, but what about here? I want it to be here, right? Now I'm doing something weird. I want it to be here, whatever this thing is. And I can't make it so that it comes from here to this way. That's my calculation problem. I got to figure that it's somewhere in the middle of the screen. So width, frame.width divided by 2, whatever the screen width is, right? And I want to add more to it. That's what I want to do, not the way I did it. Okay? Just to give you an idea of repositioning stuff so that it's proportional, so that it always changes for every time I change my screen width. Maybe my phone's going to be a different size. That's what I'm taking. So this is correct. What I did here was correct, but what I didn't do correct was this. It's not frame.width. It's frame.width times 0.5, right? Plus some value, whatever this is. So frame.width times 0.5, right? Right? Plus some value, plus let's say, I don't know, 20. Okay. This is correct still. Let's try this value. And by the way, I don't even know if my font size of 30 is right. I don't know. See? Not quite there. See what I'm talking about? Maybe it has to even come back more a little bit. Maybe instead of plus 20 is too much. Maybe I can even say just frame width. Let's just add 10 though and see what happens, right? So let's see if that's good. So this is always going to be in the middle plus 10, right? Yeah, see, that's even too much, right? And the reason why I put all these 9s is because I know I might have a higher score like this eventually, right? Yay. Okay, so let's just go this. And here's an option. What about if instead of me making it minus 20, right, I made it a percentage. So a percentage of the width, right? That means that it would always be the correct place, right? All right, let's try this out. Still tight, right? Still really tight. Even less than 0.5. So something like, and this is just right now, frame width times, instead of 0.5, frame width times 0.4, right? Something like that's really close, because I want to have enough room for all my score to be there. And that's too much. So maybe 0.45. I know it's crazy, guys, but unfortunately, this is what we have to do sometimes, because I can't see what it's going to be. I'm multiplying by a multiplier, not a number, right? It's better. And then almost perfect on the sides. Okay, cool. So now that we have our labels, whew, wow, craziness, man, craziness. But they're trapped inside of this. They're trapped inside my did move to view function, right? And I don't want that. I want them to be out here so I can modify them like normal. And I definitely want to make them public, not private, right? So instead of making it the vars here, I'm just going to take this and put them up here. And the same thing goes with this part. And put that up there. And now all I have to do is get rid of this part. As you can see. And so this basically says, hey, initialize my stuff, but I still have access to it up here in my live label and score label. Okay, cool. Now that I've got that, my scoreboard, right? What I want is my scoreboard is going to update my lives label and my score label, right? Now there's a couple ways to do this, right? Like I said before, why does game scene have no initializers? What did I do? I did something bad. I did something really bad. Lives labeling. That is bizarro. So okay, I'm gonna undo those changes. So I did this. All I did was this. My problem? No. How to put these in there? What did I do here? I did move to view. That is very strange altogether. Sorry, I just want to make sure that I don't mess up anything, because that's all I changed, right? So let's try that again. Var lives label is of type label, right? Right? Var score label might just be a Xcode thing. Is of type label. That's okay now. And now I'll take these away. Sorry, don't know what happened there. And don't need this. Okay, and to test this, let's build it. Why is it failing? Score label is label. Why is that? Give me no initial. Give me the same problem. Var lives label and score label. Anyone else giving that issue? Oh, I know why. Because these are, we have no idea what those are. Just like this, we have no idea, and that's what's causing the problem. Of course, it's not going to tell you what the problem is, because they're not initialized until we initialize them. And let's try that again. This should just work. If it was good. What's the problem? Says the value of an optional label not unwrapped. Did you mean to use this? Of course I did. Of course I fixed one side, but I didn't fix the other side. Okay, we have to implicitly and explicitly unwrap them. So notice what I did was I made a change and then I test the change, right? Because otherwise we can assume that this is the way it is, but this is wrong. Okay, cool. So that's the first thing. Now my scoreboard. My scoreboard is, remember what it is. It right now is an object. The score manager is an object I have to instantiate, right? Can I do public static? Is that possible? Can I do a public static score like this? What if I did this? The idea is to do this. Can I do this? Or if when I have a getter and setter. And the answer is instance member score cannot be used because this score in lives is a private member and I can't access my score this way, right? So nice idea to try and make it public static. But if I did this, then I wouldn't be able to do what I want to do, which is update my score. Okay? Unless I took these away. I could take them away, right? But then I couldn't use getters and setters. And if I can't use getters and setters, it takes away my ability to detect when a change has been made. Unless I use this idea of updating my score label every frame, depending on what my score is. So I could do this, right? So my score label.text is whatever it is. And if I did that, then I wouldn't need to do this. I could just make them public static and not have this part. So that's what I'm going to do. Remember I told you I don't want to make it so that it's a thing. So I'm just going to make it so that it's public static score int, which means I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to get rid of all this. Right? This self.start, I'm not going to use. I'm just going to keep it blank. This lives being 5, I can do this, and my score should be 0. Score should be 0, and public static lives should also be 5. Right, and that means I can't do this. And then my update function for my score manager, I just won't have one. I won't have one, right? Because I don't need this. In fact, all I'm doing is having a container called score manager, and all it has in my container is 2 static variables of score and lives. And if I want to add another one, which I probably will, public static, my variable, which is high score, which is also an integer. And I'll initialize that to 0. Let's just say. In fact, I probably don't even need to do this. I don't have to mention that there is even thing. I'm actually doing a struct more than anything else. Again, that's how simple it can be. Now, why can this work? Because it's public static, I can use it as something that I can pass around. So I can say something like score manager.score, right? And I can initialize these values. So when I go back to my game scene.swift, I can say something like every frame in my update function. Here's my update function. I can say that my labels, so here's where I'm going to update my labels. So update labels, right? I can say that my lives label, sorry, I'm just going to make some room here so you guys can see what I'm doing as I'm right at the bottom. I can say that my lives label, okay, dot text, right? Uh-oh, I have a problem. What's going to be my problem? Please tell me what my problem. I'm going to have a problem immediately when I do this. What is going to be my problem when I change my lives label? I've measured it, yeah? I've measured it, and it's pixels, and I'm changing the size, which means I'm going to have an offset. Probably won't be that bad, all right? But I'm going to probably I might have a slight problem, all right? Just saying. So I may want to, not now, I don't have time. I'm running out of time because I want to give you some time too. I may want to do a set text method on my lives label, on my label, that readjusts and remeasures everything. Okay, to be accurate. I'm not going to do that. Okay. So lives label.text. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because I've pixel is not text, right? So it means that I'm readjusting the width according to the pixels. So my lives labels.text is going to be equal to my score manager every frame. Score manager dot lives, right? Because that is going to be, and then I want to do this as a string. I want to convert this to a string. So how do I convert it? Remember, I can do one of these. I want to convert this to some kind of string value, right? Okay. So I want to do this. And the same thing goes with my, but this isn't right. This isn't right because that just means a number. I can't just do this. I need to do something like this, which is live. I have to actually retype everything. Lives, and again, backslash, and then the score manager dot lives. I should be doing this, right? Because I want to get the lives back. When if I just make the number, it'll replace the text with just a number, no lives. So I need this back. And I'm gonna do the same thing with my score label. Now this is where it's gonna mess up. The score label is gonna totally mess up. And you're gonna see what I'm talking about, which is dot score. So every frame it's gonna mess up. So in the beginning, I measured it. I put 0 and 99999, right? Or 5 and 9999, right? But actually, it's going to be 0 and 0, or 5 and 0. 0 is not 9999, right? Which means something's going to be messed up in my measuring, right? Because it's measuring the frame. All right, let's see if I'm right, see if I'm wrong. And if I run this thing, that means every frame this is going to change. We're good, right? 5 and 0, that's what happens every frame. Okay, now I have to update my score every time I check for collision. So I do my collision manager, my check collision, and I pass in my objects and everything else. I've also passed in my scene myself. I need to pass in my scene because my scene also has lives label and score label, right? It has this. But I don't even have to do this because I have access to my score manager, lives and score, because it's part of a public static. So if I go back to my collision manager, then whenever I collide with my islands, I run my yay sound, and then I'm also going to say something like this. I can say my score manager dot my score, right? My score itself is plus equals to 100. Every time I run over an island, I increase my score. And I can say that when I hit a cloud, I can say that my score manager lives is minus equal to 1. I can't do minus minus in Swift. Not allowed. Okay, so I did it here, and I modify my score manager. And because every frame I'm updating and checking what my score manager is, and I'm reassigning every frame, it's going to be accurate. So for example, it's going to look like this. So here's my plane. If I hit a cloud, or if I let's run over the thing, right? So there's my score. Okay. And I'm going to avoid my cloud. This is going to be way faster on the device. Yay. Right? I hit a cloud. Right? I lose a life. And you can see now that my score and my life is working. So my score is there now, right? Okay, cool. I like it. But what happens when my lives go to 0 or -1, right? That can't be right. My lives can't be -1. Okay, but that's the condition that I'm going to use to send me to the next scene, right? If my lives are 0 or less than 1, that's better. Because sometimes if you put 0, the problem with that is that if you only hit one cloud, maybe it'll take you to 0. But what if you hit 3 clouds at once? It'll take you less than 0, right? Like that, really quickly. So you want to just check that it's less than 1, right? If my lives are less than 1, then I can switch my scene to the next scene. I don't have another scene right now, right? I need to make one. I need to make 2 scenes. Let's make 1. Okay, so and so I want to create 2 things. I want to make a Swift, a game scene.swift, and I want to make a game scene.sks. So I want to make these 2 scenes. Now, if I want to be quick, I can just duplicate these things, right? Let's try that out. So I'm going to copy them. And by the way, is there a way to duplicate really quickly? If I copy them, so copy, so go to edit. And can I copy them and paste them? Is that possible here in here? Or do I have to, you know, create new ones. Is that possible as well? Like if I copy and paste, can I do that? Right? So look, copy. There's no copy option here, right? So what's the other way of doing it? Well, I'd have to do it the long way, which is File, New, oops, New File, right? And I want to add, scroll down, there is a scene, SpriteKit scene. That's an SK scene, which is going to be one of these, right? I could do it this way, which is going to be, this is going to be my game over scene. Game over scene. Right? But the problem, hold on, but before I do this, okay, I'm just showing you, I could do this way, but my problem with this, I have to recenter the thing, re-anchor everything, go back, put it together, create another file to point to this one. Too much work, right? So is there a way of duplicating? That's what I'm saying. Is there a way of copying these files? Is there a way that you can recommend that I can copy paste? I can't do copy paste. That won't work. And so Control C or Command C, Command V, not going to happen. How do I do it? What about if I did it inside my my operating system? Is that possible? So if I went to my operating system files, I'm just saying, right? These are just some different options for you. And first of all, how do I get to my operating system files, right? So if I go back to Xcode for a second, here's Xcode, and I want to see where this thing is. I could go to, I could, but let me show in Finder. Let's see where I am in Finder. Here we are. How about if I copy paste? That worked. But look over here. Didn't do that in here, right? So it's okay. But what if I went to here and I changed the names, right? Because this is a quickly, right? To game over scene, right? And this one here to game over scene.swift. We have work to do, but not as much. Okay, so we're good. Game over scene.swift, right? And now we need to add these existing items. So add files to this, right? And I can see that I have these two files that I want to add in that I just made, right? So it's going to add them exactly in there. There we are, right? And now this is a problem. I don't want to call it game scene because that's no good. I want to call this, instead of game scene, it's got to be game over scene. Right? That's what this has got to go because I can't have this anymore in my game over scene. And now notice that I have these question marks because if I go over here, I may have some issues with this. It doesn't understand what I just did. These question marks are bad, right? But I'm showing you things that we can do differently, right? So, and at the end of the day, I want you to tell me, did we really save any time? So I don't need these. I don't care about that stuff. Okay, so think about what my game over is going to look like. My game over scene is going to have a label, and I'm going to have an ocean, and that's it, and a button somehow to take me back, right? So I don't need my score label or my lives label. I don't need my cloud sprites or my island sprite or even my plane sprite. All this can go. But I do need my ocean sprite. So screen width and screen height I don't need. I don't care about that stuff, right? And let me just remove that breakpoint. And I do need my ocean, but I don't care about all this stuff because I don't care about clouds and labels. I don't care about any of this stuff because I don't need it. Or my engine sound or all this preload stuff that I'm going to do all the way down to here. So it's kind of a little bit easier to do. And because I don't need this, I don't need any of this stuff. I'm not touching to move any of my plane stuff or my touches began. I got to think about, I may still want to do touches began because I want to get information about the location of where my touchdown point is. Right, so this is okay. Touches ended to, touches canceled, okay. Here's my update function. I don't have any longer a plane or collision manager or cloud or labels to update. So all this stuff can go bye-bye. Okay, so I've kind of slimmed down on my scene. And just to show you the transition, right, because I want to do all this. I also got to change my SKS, because right when my SKS points to game scene, and that's not where it should be. It should be game over scene, because that's something that's got to change. But the rest is good. The centering, all that stuff, the alignment, these are all good things. And if I press Command B for build, that's going to be my first test. Did it build? Now, this is a problem, because if I go to source control, I want to add this to source control, or else it's never going to be there. So I want to add that one. And I definitely want to add this one, because those are the two things that I just added. And you see that I got question marks. So when we do our source control next time, I got to be careful that I want to add these two things into my source control. Otherwise, they'll never appear up on GitHub, because of the way I added it. I added it through the operating system. I didn't add it through here, just to save time, which maybe not a good thing, but I did it anyway. All right. Okay, cool. So how do I transition? So what I want to do then is, if my collision manager detects that my life is less than 0 somehow, I could do it that way. Or on update, I can check there, because I'm checking to see what my life is anyway. So if I go to my game scene.swift, my game scene here, .swift, on the bottom where I'm updating the labels, I'm also checking to see what my manager is. So if my my lives label is less than 0, don't do this, right? Only if it's greater than 0. So that's what I would check first. I would say something like, if my score manager lives is greater than 0, that's the only time I'm doing this part, right? Is do this, update the label. Otherwise, don't bother, because I'm going to transition to the other screen. Else, if it's less than 0 or equal to 0, less than or equal to 0, that's what this means, right? Then I want to move to the other scene. And the way I know how to do that is, if you go to my game view controller.swift, I want to present a new scene, right? So I want to do one of these. Let view is equal to self.view as skview, which is what it would be, right? All this stuff here, but I don't need this part. So I want to take all this. I'm going to put this back inside of my other scene, game scene.swift. So I'm going to just put it in here right now. But maybe what I want to do here is make a method that moves me to my game over scene, like transition to game over scene. I don't need this stuff. Okay. It says forced cast of skview to type the same type, because guess what? My self view is of type skview, so I don't need to do this. I've already done that, because I made my own view, my own class, which is called game scene. Right, so I don't have to do that. My scene.scale mode is this .aspect fit, right? That's the new scene that I'm transitioning to, aspect fit. That's why I need this part. And this is my view present scene, which is going to present my new scene. So this only happens when my lives go to 0, if this works. And so let me just get rid of this. So I don't need all these comments, because this is what's making it look like fatter than it is, right? So it's actually, it looks like this. That's what it really looks like. Okay. All right, cool. So if this works, then I should, when I die, I should be able to go to my scene, right? Let's try it. If it works. So I'm playing, got my plane here, and let's get a bit of score and die too. Yeah. Okay, and now I need 2 more. I need to lose 2 more lives, and it should transition me to my other scene without crashing. So it did it. Now I'm in my other scene. I'm no longer in my game scene. I've transitioned because I went to lower the thing. So I need 2 things now. 2 more objects. I need a game over label. It says game over here, and a button to take me back. Those are the minimum things I need. I'm trying to help you with your game, guys, right? By the way, you have everything you need if you think about it, right? Okay, so let's go back. So I'm going to go to So in my game over scene, here's my game over scene, .swift. What I want to do, here is I want to add in here a game over label. So here is game over label, which is of type label, right? And then in my initialization, which is in my did move to view, right? After the ocean, I'm going to add a new label. So I'm going to say add game over label, right? And I'm going to say something like self.gameover label, right, is equal to label. And I'm going to choose this big long one that I made, which my label string is going to be game over. My position is going to be the middle of my screen. So that is what? Frame dot width divided by 2, right? And frame dot height divided by 2. That's the exact middle of my screen, right? So a new CG point, which is going to be where the X is frame dot width times 0.5, and my Y is frame dot height times 0.5, right? My font size, I want to make it big. I want to make it really big. So something like at least 60, right? My font name is still going to be Doc51 because that's the font I'm using. And my font color is going to be yellow. So SK color, because I'm just doing the same thing, yellow for now. And is center is going to be true because I want it centered this time, right? So this is where we're going back to your horizontal alignment. I'm doing it automatically for myself. Now that I've got this, I'm going to add it to the scene. So I'm going to say self.addChild game over label. And there's my game over label, right? And of course, I need to explicitly unwrap it like we normally do. All right, so this should take care of my label. Let's try it out. So play. Sorry, I'm rushing, but I want to give you guys a little bit of time to answer some questions. So I'm playing, and I got this thing going on. Bam, 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 and game over. Right? Make sense? So I'm transitioning. Now I want to be able to get back. Right? So how do I get back? Well, first of all, I need a button or some kind of touch. Like maybe you want to say something like press any key to go back, to restart, right? Or something like that would be the easiest thing to do. No button, right? So if we did that, we need another label. So game over, we'll say var press any key label, right? Just of type label. And then what we're going to do, just to save time, is I'm going to take all this and just rename it. This is press any key label. And instead of game over, it's going to say press any key to restart. Press any key to restart. Now this is a big label and it can't be 60. There's no way. But it could be probably something like 30. And I don't want to put it in the middle. My frame width could be in the middle, but this frame height is 0.5 plus some value. Like, you know, maybe plus another, I don't know, 40. Right? So something like that. Okay, let's test this part. And this is going to be press any key label. And this is add a press any key label. So if I go like this, press it and play, we should have that label. It should be centered, but just lower on the screen than we had before when I die. So here we go. Oh, come on, clouds. You're not cooperating. Like, come on, let's hit that cloud a couple times, right? That's an actual bug. That's a bug, what that is. If I can kill myself like this, that means I can do this too, right? I can try and get as much points as I want by going like this, by flicking my finger around, which I never thought about, right? Okay, that's not cool. I don't want to go plus. I want to go minus. So that's, it's minus that much. So instead of plus 40, it's minus 40. Sorry, just checking the size there, but it was correct. It was the right size. Just I need to go even lower than that. And maybe not 40, maybe it's 60. Let's try that again one more time. Again, this is testing your game. You know, that part. So again, I'm going to go ba-bam, right? And then, you know what? I'm not sure that this is the right size. So let us go to, instead of 30, we're going to go 25. That's the size it's going to be. And we're going to move even lower. So I'm going to go minus 50, just to give myself a little bit of room, right? Again, this is like trial and error, but, you know, we don't see the size. We haven't plotted this out, right? All right, let's try it again. Come on, clouds, cooperate. They're not cooperating. But I could do this. I can get a really cool score. Like, watch.
Yay, yay.
Right? I could do that. Cheat. Whoa. What the hell happened? Oh, yeah. It stopped because I phased it. There we go. That's not bad, right? So centered. It looks good. And now what I'm waiting for is if I press my mouse anywhere on the screen, it should restart. So how does that work? Well, we already have the mechanic for that. If you look down here, it says when touches began, anytime touches began. I don't even care about what this stuff is. As soon as touches began somewhere, I want to go back. So I'm going to take the code that I had from over here, right? And I want to get if let, this part right here, all the way. I'm going to go back to this scene here, and I'm going to put that in my touches began script right here. Right? I'm going to say something like if let view, and we're going to do this little view, and instead of it going back to game over scene, it's going to go to game scene. But we can't just do this because we need to reset our score to 0 and our lives to 5, right? So what am I going to do? Because I've got my score manager, right? I'm going to say that my score manager dot lives is equal to 5, and my score manager dot score is equal to 0. And just to be for completeness, right? I could display my high score as well. If I wanted to in this screen, in my game over screen, I could display my high score. I'll leave that to you. It's not that difficult to do. All right, let's try this out. Whew. I know I'm going fast, but I think you understand what I'm doing here. Okay, so yay, my clouds are behaving. So I can kill myself now. Ready? So yay. Right? And back to this again. So now I have a way of getting back. Are you with me? Right? Not that difficult. Let's put this up on GitHub. So I'm going to go to source control commit. I'm going to say we added a game over scene. That's what I did right now. I also added scoring, but we're not going to put that up there. And that's going to be pushing up to GitHub. So you should have all that stuff that I just put together, right? Which is really, really important. So that gives you the score and the game over. You can start over. Now we need an intro game start scene. What am I going to do? Copy the game over scene because it's exactly what I want. It's going to say mail pilot, press any key to start, right? And that's going to be at least the bare minimum that you would need to do what you need to do for your game. Bare minimum. Okay, let's do it one more time. And then we're done. 5 minutes is all I need, I swear. And the last half an hour we'll spend together, okay? Okay, so remember that we have our, trying to see if I have anything here. Do I have anything here? I don't. So what I want is this game scene dot game over scene. I want to copy this. This is perfect because it's exactly what I need for my game start scene, right? So I'm going to copy this. Actually, I'll just duplicate this. There we go. And then I'll just rename this thing. Instead of game over scene, I'll say game start scene. Okay, so there's my game start scene.sks. And I'll just take this part right here. And I know that I'm going to make this game start scene right here. But I have work to do. This isn't enough, right? When I go back to Xcode, I need to add those things back in. So I'm going to say add files. And I'm going to, of course, add the files that I haven't added in. So those are going to go back in. But I have a problem because my game start scene.swift is got the wrong thing. It says game over scene. It can't say game over scene. So it got to say game start scene. That's the first thing. I'll leave this as is for now, right? And I'm going to go with my SKS file. And I know that I have to change this to my game start scene. So this is going to point, this is the file that it's pointing to, right? So that's what I'm changing here. Okay, so this is done. This is done. I also got to add this to source control because I know this is what's going to happen. I did this last time. So I'm going to just add those two things to source control. And I'm going to go into my thing over here and rename these things. So press any key is cool, but this is not game over label. This is got to be renamed instead of game over label. This is the first time we've done a renaming like this. We're going to call it welcome label. So welcome label, which is kind of cool that it actually works now. It never used to work in Xcode, ever. You could never rename stuff. This is the first iteration where you actually can rename stuff in Xcode for Swift anyway. All right, so there's my welcome label, and we're not going to say game over, but we're going to say something like mail pilot. Okay. Mail pilot, and 60 is okay. That's pretty cool. It's going to say instead of pressing the key to restart, it's going to press any key to start. Right? That's pressing the key label is correct. Instead of 25 is okay. I think it's pretty cool. And this is right too. Look, this is all right because it's going to go to my game scene. So this is good. We're good to go. However, and this is, by the way, this is okay. However, in my game view controller.swift, instead of going to game scene, we're going to go to game start scene. Okay, so that's what this does. So because our game view controller can't start the game anymore, it's going to start in the game start scene first, and then we can go to the game scene. All right, I got an error, and I don't know where that is. So where is that error? Invalid redirection of game over scene. Okay, I don't know what that means. That's new. Probably because I need to build again. And I can sometimes, because I'm doing what I'm doing, like I'm going to clean my build. And that's important. And if it's still got a problem, right? Or redeclaration of game over scene. That's what this is, redeclaration, right? But I don't think I did that. I think I fixed it. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't save. Maybe that's what I didn't do. So game start scene .swift. Did I not do that? And let's just run it anyway. Yeah, it just needs to be run. It needs to be built. Okay, and now I'll just run it. Huh? Okay, we're good to go. There's mail pilot, right? Now we can put other things in here like play mail pilot, you know, press play, right? And we don't have any music. I could put music here. I could put other things. If I press play, I start my game, right? So this is like I'm bookending the stuff. You can put whatever you want on the start scene, right? Or the end scene. I can play my game, right? I can get some, let's see if I can get some high score going on.
Yay.
Right? Oh yeah, it's really exciting. And then this will keep going. It'll be like an endless scroller, right? So I can move away. You can see that the colliders are pretty good now. We've worked that out. And in the real game, we probably don't want to show this stuff down here. We can get rid of that too at this point because we've done our testing. That's just testing how many objects are in the scene, right? If I want to cheat, I can cheat.
Yay.
Right? Try and make that happen a couple times, right? Actually, I should move away and move out. That's the real way to do it. So I got to do one of these. I got to do away and you know, a couple ways like that. That's a better way of cheating, right? I can drop a couple of mail there, right? And then when I die, well, first of all, let's cheat again. So
Yay.
yeah, that's it. Game over. And then probably somewhere here I can put in high score is. So that's a simple game. I've created the size for you, you know, in terms of all the things you need. I'm going to put this up on GitHub. So I'm going to say on GitHub, I'll say added start scene. And I didn't add any buttons. You could add your own buttons. And the buttons would be just like you're clicking on the buttons. And that would go a long way to making it work. Okay, so that's this part. And I'm not using my UI kit in any way. It's all SpriteKit. All SpriteKit. Okay, so that way it's like pure, there's no UI kit. I could have done it. I showed you I could have if I really wanted to. And sometimes it solves problems to do it that way. Okay, I still have some bugs like you saw. I can go back and forth and get points. You should stop that from happening. once you land on the island one time, you can only get your points one time. There's ways of checking that. All right. I have other issues too. It's pretty blank. I don't have any music for the start scene. I don't have any music for the end scene. I don't have an interesting picture to put on my start scene. I can get a plane and put a big plane in there, like an actual model, right? By the way, I have this model, right? And because I've done this game a bunch of times, right? And I could add firing, bullets, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't do any of that stuff because, we only have so much time. So any question about our male pilot example project? Yeah, I think I've covered everything that you need. So what's due? Tonight, you have to do your game design document, okay? Then the final project, and again, you can work with up to 4 people, 3 or 4, right? And I'm giving you this thing so that it doesn't burden you because I know you have other work to do, okay? But now you know how to make a very simple 2D game, right, with SpriteKit. And that was the whole point about this. Again, just a reminder that we will see each other. The next time we see each other is March 5th, right? So if you have any questions, tonight's tonight. So I'm going to stop recording now. Let's work on your game design document. I'll go around and give you some pointers, and then we'll see each other in a few weeks.